And once the people decided to participate, he better watch out if he threatens to frustrate their will again. Then I will call for daily demonstrations. However, if these daily demonstrations will still not get us the desired results, then I am afraid that the people might not listen to me anymore.
Kamusta mga sadik? Welcome back sa ating channel. For today's video, very controversial talaga itong Made in Malacañang, di ba? Pero meron tayong nakuha mga impormasyon talagang ito ay totoo. So, meron tayong video na papanoorin. Gagawa natin ng reaksyon. Tara, umpisa na natin. Made in Malacañang, Untold Story.
Son Cojuanco Aquino,
Corazon Cojuanco Aquino,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
Sa isang proklamasyon sa Club Filipino, nanumpa si Cory Aquino bilang presidente.
Taos puso akong nagpapasalamat sa inyo lahat, sa inyong tangkilik sa akin sa loob ng 20 taon at ngayon ika-21 taon.
Yun,
Sa
ang
Malacañang,
21 years na sana.
nanumpa rin si Marcos sa harap ng kanyang
Sabay
mga
sila nanumpa,
loyalista.
pero si Marcos talaga
Pero
nanalo.
huli na ang lahat.
Nakikita pa ba tayo magkatapos nito?
Ito yung clips, oh. Ito yung namamadyong si Cory Aquino.
Hindi na ako tumodas-todas. Kasi naman, tayo ka ng tayo eh. Totoo yan. Maswerte talaga ang nakaupo.
Uy, may pasaring yung sinasabi niya eh.
Uuwi na tayo. Ngayon na.
At saan naman tayo pupunta?
Oh, galing ni Christian Reyes dito ah.
Ng daddy mo.
Si Rupa Gutierrez pala siya, no? Imelda Marcos.
Alsa tayo dito.
Si
Natatakot
Diego?
ako eh.
Diego yung ano, si Marcos. Ferdinand, ay si Bongbong.
Sabihin
Diego
mo na sa
Lizaga.
akin, masama ba akong tao?
Di ba tayo nasanay?
Ay, si Amy Marcos, si Christian Reyes.
Isang dosena ng kudeta. Ano pinagkaiba nito?
Kanina pa lang 6:30 ng umaga, yung sinasabi na yung babae sa radyo, na wala na raw yung mga Marcos. Sino itong mga kasama natin dito? Aparisyon?
Bongbong! Dad,
Bongbong!
bakit ganyan pa rin ang damit mo? Anong gusto mong palabasin?
Dad, pinasabugan na po nila tayo.
Nakaso si Bongbong ng ano, pang sundalo.
So, ang gusto mo, pasabugan din natin sila.
Huwag to ng mga ahas! Dilingkis na nila tayo! Maghihintay na lang sila ng kung kailan
Made in Malacañang, ito yung
lagutin yung hininga natin!
controversial
alam mo
movie
sa
ngayon.
pagkapanalo? Anong alam mo sa katapatan? Gayong, palagi kang nagpa-party, palagi kang wala, palagi kang nasa club.
Walang mamamatay.
Ganda ng highlights ito.
Hindi ko kayo iiwan ni Daddy. Bibit-bitin ko kayo sa ayaw niya at sa gusto.
Galing ni Christian Reyes dito mag-umarte ah.
Kung hindi tayo lalaban, kailangan naman magilitas tayo.
Pinalibutan na nila itong Malacañang. Hindi na maintindihan kung sinong pwedeng pagkatiwalaan dito sa palasyo.
We are finally free and we can be truly proud of the unprecedented way we achieved our freedom
Freedom daw.
in peace.
Get them out of the Philippines.
Galing nga ni Cory. Alasi! Ganda ng ano, highlights.
Hindi tayo makakabalik.
Makakabalik tayo.
Bumalik na nga.
Makakabalik tayo.
Yes, that is quite clear.
Yan.
In spite of any result of any constitutional convention, I have no intention.
Ito talaga yung tunay na ano.
Don't you think that 2
Did
terms
you
is
know?
enough for any man?
August 21,
1971.
1971. Lugar, Plaza Miranda, sa harap ng simbahan ng Quiapo sa downtown ng Maynila. Sa makasaysayang Plaza Miranda, karaniwan nagtitipon ng mga aktivista at politiko. Panahon iyon ng kampanya para sa eleksyon ng mga senador Dalawang partido politikal ang naglalaban. Ang mga nasyonalista ang nasa poder. Ang partido ng administrasyon,
Liberal.
ang partido ni Marcos. Ang mga liberal ang nasa oposisyon.
Sinungkol Aquino, liberal kasi.
Sa rally ng Partido Liberal sa Plaza Miranda,
Makikita ninyo itong epekto sa mga kamay ko. Ito'y nalaglag na eh. At dito tumama ang isang malaking shrapnel na 1 millimeter short of my aorta. Ang sabi ng mga doktor, kung yun eh, just so much as touch your aorta, patay ka na. So I missed death by only 1 millimeter.
isang misteryo hanggang ngayon ang insidente sa Plaza Miranda. Malakas ang suspecha noon na si Senador Benigno Aquino ang kasabwat ng mga komunista sa pambobomba sa Plaza Miranda.
Mukha naman
At tingin ng marami, layunin niyang maghasik ng lagim at lumikha ng kaguluhan.
I, Ferdinand Jun Marcos, President of the Philippines, by virtue of the powers vested upon me by Article 7, Section 10, Paragraph 2 of the Constitution, do hereby suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus.
Kasunod ng pambobomba sa Plaza Miranda, sinuspinde ni Marcos ang writ of habeas corpus. Ibig sabihin, kahit sino ay pwede nang ipadakip ng mga may kapangyarihan at hindi na kailangang iharap sa korte. Dahil sa lakas ng protesta laban sa writ suspension, napilitan si Marcos na ibalik ang writ of habeas corpus. Bukod kay Senador Aquino, ang pangunahing pinagbibintangan ni Marcos sa nangyari sa Plaza Miranda ay ang Communist Party of the Philippines o CPP na pinamumunuan ni Jose Maria Sisa.
Wala nang iba.
Isinilang ang CPP noong 1968 sa araw pagkatapos ng Pasko. Pagkaraan ng 3 buwan, itinatag nito ang isang armadong grupo, ang New People's Army o NPA. Kabilang sa mga nagbuo ng NPA ang ilang dating HUK, mga miyembro ng Hukbong Mapagpalaya ng Pilipinas, isang grupo ng mga armadong rebelde na nakabase sa Central Luzon. Isa sa mga rebeldeng ito si Bernabe Buscaino, lalong kilala sa bansag na Commander Dante. Sa kalaunan, pati ang kalikasan ay tila nagbigay kay Marcos ng dahilan para ideklara ang emergency rule. Noong Hulyo at Agosto 1972, isang napakalakas na bagyo ang lumikha ng baha sa Central Luzon at sumira sa mga palayan doon. Napilitan ng gobyerno na umangkat ng halos 250,000 tonelada ng bigas mula sa ibang bansa. Tumaas ng todo-todo ang presyo ng bilihin. Muli, naglabasan sa kalsada ang mga estudyante para iprotesta ang pagtaas ng mga presyo.
This was the great desire of our forebears, their one vision, their one dream, the dream of freedom. And today, at last,
I have proclaimed martial law in accordance with the powers vested in the President by the Constitution of the Philippines. I assure you that I am utilizing this power for the proclamation of martial law vested in me by the Constitution for one purpose alone, and that is to save the Republic and reform our society.
23 ng Setyembre 1972, nang malaman ng bayan na nagsimula na ang panahon ng martial law. Pero 21 ang opisyal na petsang nakasulat sa Proclamation 1081.
Now, the limit has been reached, for we are against the wall. We must now defend the Republic of the Philippines with this stronger power granted by the Constitution. To those guilty of treason, insurrection, rebellion, it may pose a grave danger. But to the ordinary citizenry, to almost all of you, whose primary concern is merely to be left alone, to pursue your lawful activities, this is the guarantee of that freedom that you seek. All that I do and we in government must do is for the Republic and for you. We cannot succeed without the support of our people. I am happy to see that the reaction throughout the country is favorable. I have received hundreds and hundreds of telegrams from all corners of the Philippines congratulating you and incidentally me for the proclamation of martial law, for the sudden cessation of anarchy and of criminality throughout the land, and of the re-establishment of an atmosphere of brotherhood amongst Filipinos. Now everybody seems concerned about his neighbor. Now everybody seems to be involved in the destiny not only of himself but of the entire country and of the entire nation. And this is what we have been hoping and praying for. The Secretary of National Defense, the Chief of Staff have recommended, the major service commanders have recommended that we now establish a military commission to investigate, try and punish all personnel of the armed forces of the Philippines who may not perform in accordance with the exact standards, exacting standards of proficiency of the professional soldier.
Ang presidenteng nagdeklara ng martial law ay kinilalang isa sa pinakamatalinong Pilipino ng kanyang henerasyon. 3 term nanungkulan si Marcos bilang kongresista ng Ilocos Norte. Pagkatapos, nahalal siyang senador at lumabas na top-notcher. Di nagtagal, naging Pangulo siya ng Senado, isang pwestong ginagawang tuntungan ng mga nangangarap na maging presidente ng Pilipinas. Kongresista siya noong makilala niya si Imelda Romualdez. Sa loob lamang ng ilang araw, napasagot niya at pinakasalan ang Rosas ng Tacloban.
Ganda ni Imelda ng bata.
Sa pagpapakasal kay Imelda, nagkaroon si Marcos ng baluarte sa 2 rehiyong mayaman sa boto. Taga-sur si Imelda, taga-norte ako. Nasabi niya sa isang interview, "Kung magkasama kami, saklaw namin ang buong bansa." Tama ang kanyang kalkulasyon. Enero 1966, nanumpa si Ferdinand Marcos bilang ika-6 na presidente ng Pilipinas.
Ferdinand Marcos of Bata, province of Ilocos Norte, having been elected and proclaimed as President of the Philippines, do hereby solemnly swear.
Yung 4 years ni President Macapagal, less than 50. Kung magkamali ako, sabihin ko, less than 500 classrooms were built. In the first 2 years of Marcos, 17,000 classrooms were built.
Dami.
I know that opportunity has been knocking at the door for a long, long time for the Filipino people to rise up on their own and build a new nation and build a new country, a country of which our children and their succeeding generations shall be proud.
Talino to ni Marcos. Grabe.
We build a new country, a new nation, and new people in this new society.
Walang binabasa eh. Ayun itong luma.
New Society. Yon ang itinawag niya sa bagong kaayusang itinatayo niya kapalit ng sistemang kanyang giniba. Bagong lipunan. Sa puri-puri ang mga unang ginawa niya para mailatag ang pundasyon ng pinapangarap niyang bagong lipunan. Iniutos niya na lansagin ang mga private armies. Pinasuko niya ang mga armas na hindi lisensyado. Pinatalsik niya ang humigit kumulang sa 6,000 empleyado ng gobyerno na di umano'y kasangkot sa graft and corruption.
Marami din pinakorap sa panahon niya.
isang nagngangalang Lim Seng ang ginawang halimbawa para ipakitang seryoso ang bagong lipunan sa kampanya laban sa kasamaan. Sa utos ni Marcos, si Lim Seng ay mabilisang isinakdal sa krimeng paglalako ng droga at hinatulan ng kamatayan ng hukumang militar. Binaril siya ng firing squad.
Kabuti dati talaga. Dapat ganyan ginagawa ngayon eh. Pagka drug dealer ka, talagang firing squad ka na, parang kinapamarisan. Tikas mga sundalo dati oh. Papayat eh. Ngayon, lalaki na ng tiyan eh.
Ang tagapagpatupad ng martial law ay ang Armed Forces of the Philippines. At salamat sa martial law, lalong naging makapangyarihan ang sandatahang lakas. Lumaki ng husto ang puwersa ng AFP at lumobo ang budget nito. Para masentralisa ang kapangyarihan, ang pulisya na dati nasa ilalim ng mga alkalde ay ipinailalim ni Marcos sa militar. Hindi matatawaran ang katapatan ni Ver kay Marcos. Ayon sa biru-biruan, kung palulundagin daw ni Marcos si Ver, ang isasagot nito from what floor, sir? 3 ahensya ang pinamunuan ni Ver, ang Presidential Guard Battalion, ang Intelligence Service of the AFP o ISAF, at ang National Intelligence and Security Authority o NISA.
There was no Filipino that was executed during the martial law period, even if he was convicted with murder or convicted for a death sentence. Walang Filipino. That's what martial law can be proud about. It was a compassionate society. It was a benevolent leadership.
Compassionate society. Smiling martial law. Pinakalat ang mga slogan tungkol sa bagong lipunan.
Remember when he became president, I asked him, now Ferdinand that you are president, this was in 65, what's my role as your first lady? And he said, you as first lady and mother of the country, he said, while I, Ferdinand, the father, build the house, you make it a home. And so I had to reflect what makes a home. Love. What is love when made real? Beauty.
Melga Romualdez Marcos ay tinawag na secret weapon ni Marcos nang tumakbo ito sa pagkapresidente. Sa panahon ng martial law, tinawag siyang Iron Butterfly. Sapagkat ipinagsama niya sa kanyang katauhan ang ganda ng paru-paro at ang tigas ng asero. Si Imelda ay naging gobernador ng Metro Manila at Minister of Human Settlements. Pumirma siya ng mga kasunduan sa China, Union Soviet, Roma, Yugoslavia at Libya. Ayon sa mga kritiko, si Imelda ay may edifice complex. Ito'y sa dahilang nagpatayo siya ng kung ano-anong edipisyo at gusali. Folk Arts Theater, Philippine International Convention Center, Heart Center, Lung Center, Kidney Center, Film Center, Cultural Center.
Yung Cultural Center, yun ang parang our monument to the Filipino soul and spirit. Doon natin ilalagay lahat ang kagandahan na that we have upheld, the beautiful and the good and the right that we have upheld and the true that we have upheld as a people through the centuries.
Sa kanyang ikalawang presidential decree sa ilalim ng batas militar, ipinahayag ni Marcos na ang buong Pilipinas ay isa ng land reform area. Ipamamahagi ang lupa sa mga magsasaka.
Ano yan? The truth talaga never lies. The truth never lies.
Republic of the Philippines do hereby decree and order henceforth from this day on, October 21st, 1972, the emancipation of tenant farmers of the Philippines.
Sa simula, mukhang gumanda ang takbo ng ekonomiya. Ipinasok ni Marcos sa gobyerno ang mga technocrats na tulad nina Paterno, Gerardo Sicat at Cesar Virata. Ang mga ito ay mga profesional na manager na kilalang hindi namumulitika o balitang hindi nangungurakot. Lumago ang tubo ng mga pangunahing korporasyon. Tumaas ang gross national product at nagkaroon ang Pilipinas sa kauna-unahang beses ng balance of payment surplus dahil sa di inaasahang pagtaas ng presyo ng mga produktong pang-export. Pangunahin na ang asukal at niyog.
I would say 1972 to 1976. I think that there were these were the best years of the Marcos administration.
Tumakas ang puwersa ng Communist Party of the Philippines at New People's Army, lalo na sa kanayunan. Sa unang taon ng martial law, itinatag ang National Democratic Front, isang makakaliwang alyansa na nagtataguyod ng sandatahang pakikibaka. Sa kalakasan ng CPP, NPA, NDF, tinatayang umabot sa mahigit 20,000 ang armadong kasapian nito. Sa hanay ng Muslim secessionist movement, itinatag ang Moro National Liberation Front at sa kalaunan ang Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Ang mga grupong ito ay sinuportahan at inarmasan ng mga mayayamang bansang Muslim sa Middle East.
Ako si Chris Aquino. Ako'y 7 taong gulang na.
Si Chris pala, nung bata pa talagang ginamit na ng nanay
Hindi
niyo.
nakakapiling. Ang tatay ko si Ninoy Aquino. Sana'y tulungan po ninyo ako para makapiling ko naman ng mami ko, ng mga kapatid ko, at lalong-lalo na para makapaglingkod na rin sa inyo.
Mula sa bilangguan, inilunsad ni Ninoy Aquino ang kanyang kandidatura. Hinayaan siyang kumandidato pero hindi siya pinayagang kumampanya. Binigyan lang siya ng isang pagkakataong magsalita sa telebisyon.
We stand up, hindi ka pa nakakatayo denied ng motion mo siyempre mga general yan pag nagalit si Apo sa kanila, diretirado na sila.
But sir, wouldn't you think that by making a statement such as that, you're really questioning the integrity of all these men?
No, it is the circumstance, Ronnie. Kamukha mo, empleyado ka ng NNPC, maatakin pa si Marcos? Ba, hindi pwede.
No.
Ay, na nga
I will not attack the president. I have no quarrel with him.
Na nga because you are also in the NNPC.
Ang partido ng rehimen ng kilusang bagong lipunan ay nagharap ng tiket na pinangungunahan ni Imelda Marcos. Sa pamumuno ni Ninoy Aquino, ang oposisyon ay nagbuo ng isang alyansa, ang Lakas ng Bayan o Laban. Ang radikalisasyon ng mga tradisyonal na politiko at ng mga aktivistang moderato.
Behind the series of terrorist bombings and the
bombing incidents in Metro Manila.
1981, may bagong presidente ang Estados Unidos, si Ronald Reagan.
Si Reagan naman.
Nakatakdang dumalaw sa Pilipinas ang Papa si John Paul II. Dahil sa mga pangyayaring ito, napilitan si Marcos na magluwag. Formal niyang inalis ang martial law at nagdaos siya ng isang eleksyon sa pagkapresidente. Binoykot ng oposisyon ang halalan, nanalo si Marcos. Ito, naninirahan na sa Estados Unidos si Ninoy Aquino at ang kanyang pamilya. 1979. Kailangang operahan si Ninoy para sa sakit sa puso.
I told them, where can I have my operation? Dito lang po, sa heart center. And that's the heart center of Imelda Marcos. And I asked, who can do the operation for me? The director said, ako lang po. He was the director of the heart center, handpicked also by Imelda. I said, Doctor, pagpaliban mo na ka ako. Thank you na lang. I said, if they cannot operate on me in America, please bring me to my cell. May 8. My wife visited me early in the morning and she told me, the hospital is crawling with Metrocom cars. Guards all over the place. Baka kami magbibisita sa'yo. Then all of a sudden, my guards started jumping, putting their barong Tagalog, hiding all of their guns. I said, tama, may darating na VIP. And then lo and behold, the beautiful one ascended into my suite.
No.
She came And she was really beautiful. She has not aged. And she sat down and said, "Naku, Ninoy," sabi niya, "I'm sorry to see you like that. Would you like to go to America?" Abay ka ko, sure. Oo. Eh sa tuwa ko, tinanggal ko pa yung aking kwintas, kako anting-anting ko ito, iwanan ko naka-prepare dito. Palayasin na niyo ako, pumunta niyo ako sa Amerika. Sabi niya, there's a plane leaving at 6 o'clock. You can be in that plane.
Na mapigilan ang kanyang pag-uwi, kinansela ang kanyang pasaporte at winarningan siya na may mga magtatangkang pumatay sa kanya kung sakaling umuwi siya.
Nung nagkita kami ni Ninoy, sabi ko, Ninoy, ang sabi ni Presidente, okay na okay daw. In fact, matagal ka nang hinihintay niya eh. Ilang taon na yun, nagtataka siya, ba't hindi ka pa umuwi? Sabi ko, sabi ni Presidente Marcos, okay na okay, pwede kang umuwi. Ngunit, sabihin mo sa amin kung kailan ka uwi. It is to help secure you sapagkat alam ninyo, ang iba dito, ang isip A, ikaw ay CIA, ang iba naman NPA. Sino ka ba? Eh siyempre yung NPA nagsiselo sa CIA, ang CIA naman magsiselo sa NPA. Kaya, for your security, you inform us.
Noong panahong iyon, malubha na ang sakit ni Marcos. Meron siyang lupus erythematosus, isang sakit na posibleng makamatay.
President Marcos at that time, August 21, was not only sick, he was dying because there was a rejection of his kidney transplant on August 7. He was dying. And so sabi niya, tawagin mo si General Ver, who was there, and he said, ask if Ninoy is arriving. Ang sabi naman ni General Ver, I don't think so, sir, kasi matagal na yung balita, wala naman dumadating. At saka hindi naman tayo ni-inform.
Nakagawa si Ninoy ng paraan para sa kanyang pagbabalik. Nakakuha siya ng peking pasaporte sa pangalang Marcial Bonifacio. At dumaan muna siya sa ibang bansa para lituhin ng sino bang sumusubaybay sa kanya.
You have to be very ready with your hand camera because this action can become very fast. In a matter of 3-4 minutes, it could be all over, you know. And I may not be able to talk to you again after this.
I promise to return. I have returned against all odds.
Dahil sa tindi ng reaksyon ng taong bayan, nag-utos ng formal na investigasyon si Marcos. 2 investigative commission ang binuo. At binuwag din pagkatapos dahil walang kredibilidad sa publiko. Ang ikatlo, ang Agrava Commission sa pamumuno ni Judge Corazon Agrava ay hindi nagpakita ng takot.
It was so sad. On my birthday, months after, they indicted me in the Agrava Commission 1984. And hindi ko maintindihan bakit ako nakaunang sinalang nila indicted for the assassination of Ninoy. And every time I think of it, I cannot understand why.
Si General Fabian Ver ay isa sa mga pinaghihinalaang utak ng krimen. Ipinatawag din siya ng Agrava Commission at kasama siya ng mga akusadong militis ng Sandigang Bayan. Napilitan si Marcos na papagbakasyonin muna si Ver.
When General Ver was asked to go on leave because of the initial findings of the Agrava Commission, the 68 general officers in the service at the time, I was the 69th, passed around a manifesto declaring support for him. At that time, I was already the acting chief of staff, concurrently vice chief of staff and chief of the Philippine Constabulary Integrated National. I refused to join in that manifesto. I was the only one who refused among the general officers. Sa palagay ko, orders from here in Malacañang.
Pinawalang sala ng Sandigang Bayan si Ver. Agad siyang ibinalik ni Marcos sa dating pwesto. Sa mismong hanay ng militar, lumaganap ang disgusto. Nabuo ang Reform the Armed Forces Movement o RAM. Sa mga kilos protesta, nagkasama ang mga aktivistang may iba't ibang ideolohiya.
The Americans realized that eventually they had to do away with Marcos because they had their bases here. And they did not want their bases to be isolated. And they did not want the CPP-NPA to get stronger and stronger.
That I am ready to call a snap election, perhaps earlier than 8 months, perhaps in 3 months.
I just want to remind Mr. Marcos that it was he who called for snap elections. And once the people decided to participate, he better watch out if he threatens to frustrate their will again. I'm afraid he will have an angry people on his hands.
Mrs. Aquino, you keep making what sometimes sound like veiled threats and sometimes not so veiled. What do you mean he'd better watch out?
Well, all along I have asked the people, not to engage in any violence. And so far they have listened to me. And if you may recall, just after my husband was assassinated, I did go on radio in our country, and I asked the people, to observe peaceful means and not to resort to violence, and they did obey me. But this time, they have a greater stake in this. It's not just Cory Aquino, but the future of our children and our children's children. So if they think that they have been cheated out of an election, I'm afraid they might not listen to me anymore if I still insist on going about this peacefully.
Well, let me put it to you this way. You are running for president of the Philippines. You are putting yourself forward as the leader of your nation. And now, if I understand what you're telling me correctly, you're saying if the election doesn't go the right way, you may not be able to control even your own followers. That doesn't speak very well for your ability to be able to run the country.
Well, Ted, the people who are with me now are so convinced that I will win. And if Marcos resorts to terrorism or to gross cheating, then the people who have supported me may finally think that the electoral process is just not advisable anymore.
Are you raising the specter, the possibility of something approaching even civil war?
No, not civil war, as long as I can manage it. In fact, I have said that if Mr. Marcos cheats me out of this election, then I will call for daily demonstrations. However, if these daily demonstrations will still not get us the desired results, then I am afraid that the people might not listen to me anymore.
Mr. President, I don't remember any election in recent Filipino history, in fact, even in not-so-recent Filipino history, where the loser did not claim that there were technical and other reasons of foul. So, and perhaps you remember one, but I don't.
I think you're right. Filipinos are not known to be good losers. They're always our great losers, and they never concede. But in this particular matter, Ted, I am so certain of victory that these declarations of my opponent that there will be a civil war in this country indicate how desperate they are. I certainly am concerned about your attitude that you feel that there would be cheating if I win, and there would be no cheating if she wins. No, I think it's the other way around.
I realize it is a hypothetical question, but in every election, someone has to win, someone has to lose, and I wonder if you would address the hypothetical question, though. If you lose, will you stand down?
I have never thought of it, but certainly if there is no question which nullifies the results of the election, as I said, I will perform my duty as president in accordance with law.
Your claims and the claims of your supporters that you are so highly decorated are fabricated claims.
I don't think that that is the story. It's a story about my guerrilla group. It's not about the medals. Even here, when the case of libel was filed, the publisher here did not question those medals. It's only you, Americans, who question it. I am not going to degrade myself by talking about those medals. If the American government wants them back, they can have them back. It's a good thing that we did not burn them. It's a good thing that we did not burn them at the end of the war, when you refused to give us our back salaries and refused to recognize all of us, and we were not entitled to education benefits, we were not entitled to medical benefits. But I was one of those who stopped our people from turning communist, especially the veterans, because we did not fight for communism, we fought for freedom. Now I wonder whether we also fought for the Americans and the American flag, to which we had sworn when MacArthur inducted us into the USAFE. I have no regrets, however, about having fought in Bataan. I have no regrets about fighting beside American soldiers. I have no regrets about fighting under American officers. And probably if our country were ever to be attacked again, I would do the same thing. But I would certainly raise some questions about the conduct of the American government in relation to the veterans of the last war. I am certainly very disappointed.
Mr. President, the question is not raised about the courage of Filipinos who fought against the Japanese during the Second World War. But the question, as you know, and you know this is not something I'm making up, you have seen those newspaper articles yourself and you have seen some of the documents, suggests that the guerrilla group that you claim to have led, in fact, either did not exist at all or was just a tiny group that played no major role.
Then why is it recognized by the intelligence officer of General MacArthur in a paper which is certified too by the head of the archives of the United States? Now look, I don't want to talk about this anymore. If you do, I'm going to walk out.
You've had some rather disparaging remarks to make about Mrs. Aquino, not the least of them being that, in effect, she has experience as a housewife, but little else. Do you think she has gained in stature over the last few weeks? And do you think it is possible that if she is elected, that she could serve effectively as President of the Philippines?
I still believe that you need somebody who has been experienced to run our government in this time of crisis. I have nothing against her, but certainly when, say, your son is sick and he needs an operation or he needs the expertise of a good doctor, you don't pick just anybody who has honesty and sincerity in order to cure your son. In that situation where she has no experience whatsoever is something that we have to accept and admit realistically that she had the the nerve to run without any experience whatsoever, as she admitted, and it's not me who has said that she is inexperienced. It is her who said, "What do I know about running a government?" And as an ordinary citizen, I would cry out immediately against anybody who says that being given the presidency. But as President of the Republic, I think it's my duty to call attention to this danger.
You think that Subic and Clark can be replaced?
You will not be able to find any replacement of Subic and Clark, but you are free to get out anytime you think it wise to do so.
Mr. President, some would say that the gravest danger to the Philippines these days is that there is a crisis of confidence, and that what Mrs. Aquino would bring to the presidency would be a fresh breeze, and that she could get the expertise by surrounding herself with competent experts, but that what is needed is a fresh sense of trust, a sense that the corruption that is charged will be cleaned out, a sense that the cronyism that is charged will be cleaned out, a sense that the brutality that is charged against members of your armed forces and the police will be cleaned out, and that Mrs. Aquino can fulfill that role and you cannot.
you, sir, are guilty of speculation and making allegations that are not proved by evidence. Corruption and hidden wealth were charges included in the impeachment proceeding. They were debated upon, and the opposition was challenged to present their evidence. They could not. There is no evidence. Even in your hearings in the House of Representatives Subcommittee of Mr. Solar, Congressman Solomon and Roth, I think, have said that there is no evidence about corruption or hidden wealth, and that this is all hearsay and all rumor. Now you repeat it as if it is the gospel truth. I question your right to make this as a premise for any further questioning. I must say that hearsay, rumors, speculation as a basis for a question by reputable newspapers and foreign correspondents should have no place in a society like ours. Your society.
Mr. President, you are quite right. If I were the only one raising those questions, there would be no point in raising them at all.
The number does not matter, Ted. Whether 1,000 people raise it, if there is no evidence, then it is false. Whether it is raised by 10,000 people, if there is no evidence, then it is patently false. Numbers do not matter. It is evidence that matters. And you don't have any evidence. Mr. Solars has no evidence. The opposition has no evidence. They're just talking loud, and they're engaged in a smear campaign, and you are helping them.
Mr. Solars claims that he has testimony from someone who met with who claims that he has testimony from someone who met with your wife, Mrs. Marcos, who spoke to him of properties that you hold through other names in New York, and that Mrs. Marcos said to this man who testified before the committee that she expected by 1987 to have $70 million worth in profits on those properties. Now that is the testimony. You're saying there is no testimony. It may be inaccurate, but the testimony, sir, is there.
The witness, when asked by Congressman Solomon whether there is any evidence whatsoever proving this, said, I merely heard it. It is something that I heard from somebody. I do not know your sources of information. You may be more accurate than I am. But certainly, I don't consider that evidence which ties us up to the ownership of any of these properties. And we are looking into the manner in which the evidence has been obtained by some of your investigators and some of your foreign correspondents, your newspaper men. And then after the elections, we will then look into the legal aspects of the coercion and intimidation that has been going on against some of the witnesses. But anyway, whatever it is, I deny categorically any speculations of the corruption and hidden wealth that is being alleged, so much so that the opposition members of the Batasan, the legislature, are now facing perjury cases in our courts, and we are going to see to it that these cases will be pushed through.
Sa snap election ng kandidato ng naghaharing partido sa pagkapresidente at vice-presidente ay sina Marcos at Arturo Tolentino. Ang itinapat ng nagkakaisang oposisyon, Cory Aquino, dating may bahay, at Salvador Laurel, pinuno ng Alyansang Unido. Saan mang magpunta sina Cory, dinumog sila ng taong bayan. Isang palatandaan na lumalawak at lumalakas ang damdamin laban sa batas militar. Nang mag-walk-out bilang protesta ang mga computer technicians, itinuloy sa batasang pambansa ang bilangan ng boto. Sa kabila ng pagsalungat ng mga oposisyonistang mambabatas, ipinahayag ng mayorya sa batasan ang pagwawagi nina Marcos at Ortiz.
Marcos panalo eh.
Nakita ng Reform the Armed Forces Movement ang pagkakataon para kumilos laban kay Marcos. Pero natunugan ni Marcos ang planong pagsalakay sa Malacañang at napilitan ang mga rebeldeng sundalo na manindigan sa loob ng mga kampo militar. Pero dumamay at sumaklolo sa mga rebelde ang isang di inaasahang kaalyado, ang taong bayan. People power.
At a palace news conference, his top general argued with him.
I understand you gave them orders to wait.
I told them to wait because
there are massing civilians near our troops, and we cannot keep on withdrawing. They asked us to withdraw yesterday. When I talked to Mr. Enrile, he said you talked to you, we withdraw a little.
my order is to disperse
We
the
cannot withdraw all
crowd
the time, Mr. President. We
without
must.
shooting them. No, hold on. You disperse the crowd without shooting them.
Daming na dito ah. Daming nang dala, pati mga madre oh. Ginamit ni Cory Aquino. Ano talaga pala si Marcos eh, tapos eh, hindi natanggap. Kaya people power.
The people in the same way that the people are protecting us.
Traitor na to si ano. Si Ramos sa kasi Enrile.
This is a small matter which we have control of.
Corazon Cojuanco Aquino.
Corazon Cojuanco Aquino.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Sa isang proklamasyon sa Club Filipino, nanumpa si Cory Aquino bilang presidente.
Taos puso ako nagpapasalamat sa inyo lahat, sa inyong tangkilik sa akin sa loob ng 20 taon at ngayon ika-21 taon.
Sa Malacañang, nanumpa rin si Marcos sa harap ng kanyang mga loyalista. Pero huli na ang lahat. Sa ika-4 na araw ng People Power, nagkakandarapang tumakas sa Malacañang si Marcos, ang kanyang pamilya at ang kanilang malalapit na tauhan. Dinala sila sa Hawaii sakay ng mga helicopter at eroplano ng Estados Unidos. Namatay si Ferdinand Marcos sa Hawaii noong 1989. Pinayagang iuwi sa Pilipinas ang kanyang bangkay.
It was my father's fervent wish that when he came to the end of his days, that he be buried in a simple soldier's ceremony. This was in keeping with his idea that he was but a soldier doing his duty, a citizen serving his country. We have waited 27 years to fulfill that wish that he left us with. But we are here today, and we are able to grant him that wish. In keeping with his desires, we will keep these ceremonies simple. And it is left to the family, and I speak in their behalf, on behalf of the Marcos family, to thank all those who actually helped and made this day a reality. We thank President Rodrigo Duterte for his recognition of my father's service to the nation. We thank all the members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines who have here come to pay their last respects to their former Commander-in-Chief. We thank all the members of the Philippine National Police
for the support that they have given us in these ceremonies that we are having today. And to the Filipino people for their continuing support.
To veteran, a Medal of Valor awardee, a soldier lived with such fervent duty and loyalty in serving his countrymen. Major Ferdinand Edelin Marcos was regarded as the most decorated hero of the World War II for receiving high honors and commendations, which include the Medal of Valor. Selfless service, integrity, and personal courage defined his extraordinary accomplishments as a young Filipino soldier who was subjected to torture by oppressors, fought in desolate battlefields, and conquered the Japanese invasion in the country. Battles of Pesang Pass and the infamous Death March.
When the Philippines obtained independence, his undying commitment to service continued as he pursued his political career after topping the bar examination in 1939 with 98% rating, the highest record in Philippine history. Ferdinand Marcos was elected thrice as representative of Ilocos Norte from 1949 to 1959. He became the Senate President from 1963 to 1965, where he was regarded as son of the legislators who introduced the most number of significant bills. A war hero, Ferdinand Edelin Marcos later served as Secretary of National Defense in 1965. Carrying the same mission of serving his country and fellow, Ferdinand Edelin Marcos was elected thrice as President of the Republic of the Philippines from 1965 to 1986. As one of the youngest elected president in history, he made a vision for the Philippines. This nation can be great again, and began realizing it by establishing numerous state colleges and universities, iconic infrastructure projects, primary healthcare facilities, enacting rural electrification program, among others. He also led educational reforms which widened free access to schools, agrarian reforms which led to the country's food sufficiency record, and labor reforms and opportunities which boosted employment potentials of Filipinos here and abroad.
Today, we honor a true patriot who willingly sacrificed his life for his country and people. For almost 3 decades of waiting, we have come to the right time to finally lay him to rest, to where he wished to be laid, beside his fellow soldier and comrades. If there are no heroics now, from whom will future generations derive their inspiration? He said. May we then be all heroes in our own ways, as President Ferdinand Edelin Marcos did his own toll in big battles of life and create the best vision for the next generation, the great vision which he inherited from his promise. For every tear you shed, there will be a victory.
As we put him to rest, may we, the people of the Republic of the Philippines, finally unite this politically divided nation and uphold the spirit of true reconciliation. With one mind, one heart, one soul, and one spirit, let us embrace national peace, healing, and unity. Salamat, APO. Salamat, President Ferdinand Edelin Marcos.
Simple lang libingan niya sa libingan ng mga bayani.
Magkikita pa ba tayo pagkatapos ito?
Clips na yung clips na yung dahil niya.
At saan naman tayo?
Made in Malacañang.
Dito kami mamamatay ng daddy mo.
Nagtatapang-tapangan ka! Anak niyo po ako, Dad! I am your son!
Alsa tayo dito. Natatakot na ako eh.
Saan ka natatakot?
Sabihin mo nga sa akin.
On the unprecedented way, we achieved our freedom. In peace.
In peace ba? Kaya pala.
Get them out of the Philippines.
Huli ka.
Di ba tayo nasanay? 7 assassination attempts. 1 dosenang kudeta. Ano pinagkaiba nito?
Kanina pa lang 6:30 ng umaga.
Based on the
sabi
truth,
na yung
untold
babae
truth
sa
story.
Nawala na raw yung mga Marcos? Sino itong mga kasama natin dito? Aparisyon?
Bongbong! Dad! Bakit ganyan pa rin ang damit mo? Anong gusto mong palabasin?
Dad, pinagsabugan na po nila tayo.
My order is to disperse in the ground all the time, Mr. President, without shooting them. No. So, ang gusto mo, masabugan din natin sila.
Huwag ito ng mga ahas! Nilingkis na nila tayo! Maghihintay na lang sila ng kung kailan yung tamang oras para lagutin yung hininga natin!
Anong alam mo sa pagkapanalo? Anong alam mo sa katapatan? Ngayong palagi kang nagpa-party, palagi kang wala, palagi kang nasa club!
Walang mamamatay dito. Hindi ko kayo iiwan ni Daddy. Bibit-bitin ko kayo sa ayaw at sa gusto. Bakit ba kasi tayo aalis? Kung hindi tayo lalaban, kailangan naman maging ligtas tayo.
Pinalibutan na nila itong Malacañang. Hindi na maintindihan kung sinong pwedeng pagkatiwalaan dito sa palasyo.
We are finally free, and we can be truly proud of the unprecedented way we achieved our freedom. In peace.
Get them out of the Philippines.
No si Balasi! Galing ni Christine Reyes dito.
Hindi tayo makakabalik.
Ganda ng ano?
Makakabalik tayo.
Music. No si Balasi.
Makakabalik tayo.
Balik na.
Ano na? Hindi na ako tumodas-todas. Eh kasi naman, tayo ka ng tayo eh.
Totoo yan. Maswerte talaga ang nakaupo.
Ang madyong. So yun na, no? The truth talaga never lies. Yung maganda tong dokumentary ni ano, yung nagsasalita, tsaka yung clips ng Made in Malacañang. So talagang magaling to si ano, Derek Darrell. So congrats sa 2 weeks na blockbuster. So hanggang dito lang ating komentaryo at reaksyon. Mabuhay Philippines.